This is an uncensored podcast about sex, sexuality, gender, and body stuff. Listener discretion is advised. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the person or persons sharing them. Some names have been changed to protect the anonymity of its participants. Hello, friends. It is I, your queer host and favorite redhead, although you don't see me very often, so you might not even know that. I have red hair. What's up? I'm recording on the day that we're supposed to be releasing. Most of you won't even listen to this today, so you won't even know that, but I am, because I have been... What do they say? How do they say? Burning the candle at both ends. I literally have been doing so much stuff. I'm planning a comedy show and I'm enjoying planning a comedy show, but it's been a lot. Finding the comedians, touring the space, discussing, how many tables we need. It's just a lot. But it's good work. It's for a good cause. It's to serve the community of queers that live around here and the nearer areas. But yeah, I've been doing that. I'm teaching kids theater, which is like, what? And you're like, we just started listening and he's just talking about himself. Oh my God. Done with this. Okay, so we won't just talk about me, but needless to say, I was like, last night I got home, I just needed to stare at my phone, stare at a wall, stare at the TV. I needed to like masturbate just a little bit. And then actually I was staring at my phone and passed out. I'm not even sure if I masturbated. I was actually listening to the I've Had It podcast. And that one is one that it's like the only podcast I listen to that's not, about people getting murdered. So it's actually super upbeat. It makes me laugh. It's not the kind of podcast you fall asleep to, but I did. And I was like half asleep and hearing them cackle with their old lady cougar cackles, and I was just like, oh God, this is not a good sleep mix. So I turned it off, but then I literally passed out. I've just been so tired, so much going on, but I'm here. We're going to do a quickie-sode. The other reason why we're doing a quickie-sode today is because I am working on editing some really awesome interviews that I've done over the last couple months. With some authors, one author, actually, I guess two authors, some sexperts, who taught me a thing or two, which is pretty cool. We're working out another interview with another guy who's like a specialist with like sex toys. So like, there's some really good stuff coming up for this season. But it's one of those things where I'm actually interviewing professional people and I really want to make the episode sound like good. So I'm taking my time with that. But hopefully by next week we'll have something really cool to share with you guys. So this week we're going to do an educational episode. And I'm working on doing more educational episodes having to do with sex and sexuality and mental health and body stuff, all the things you guys know that we talk about. And so today we're going to talk about the LGBTQIA plus alphabet. But first, I do want to dump some things on you guys that I'm finding here in my notes. So what do we have here? This is this is a new segment that we're going to call Cum Dump. There's not really that much cum. Just I'm dumping stuff that I've been wanting to tell you for a while. Okay, so not that. Oh, I don't know if I ever talked about this. This is something really interesting, you guys. So I think I actually brought this up in an interview, and I felt like my guest was like, I don't care about that. So I was like, you know what? No, I'm deleting that, and we're going to talk about it when I can really talk about it, because this is fascinating. And also, it was a total overshare that this older guy was like, I saw him in the locker room. He was getting done with his workout, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, not so good." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm just so tired." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, what's up with that? You getting enough sleep?" And he's like, "Well, he's like, I don't know if you know this, but I have bladder cancer." And I was like, "Oh, that's terrible. I'm so sorry to hear that." And he was like, yeah, but it's okay. It's okay. Like, I'm getting treatment. And so in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, he's, getting chemo or whatever. But apparently there's this new way that they treat bladder cancer specifically. And it goes a little something like this. They insert, I don't know, something into your urethra. It goes all the way up your urethra, which is, the length of your penis, and then some, all the way into your bladder. And they inject tuberculosis into your bladder. So, like, consumption. So, like, the thing that, Satine was coughing up on a napkin all the way through Moulin Rouge, and, like, La Boheme, and, like, Rent. Well, Rent was, I think, AIDS. But, yeah. Like the most romantic of fatal diseases from pop culture. They inject it up into your pee hole, into your bladder, and they do that 6 different times. And apparently, you don't get tuberculosis, which is the good news. But because you have a present outside virus, your body like attacks it. And I'm sure that's uncomfortable, but anyway, it also attacks the cancer in the process. So it's literally like killing the cancer in your bladder. And then I guess they don't have to like remove your bladder, which would be very unfortunate, right? But anyway, he tells me this, and I'm just like, what? Like, that's insane. And then he's like, yeah, I have to do it 6 times. So I'm on like round 3. So I got like 3 more to go. And it's just, it's just very unpleasant. But he's like, it looks like it's working. I'm going to be cancer free. And I was just like, holy shit, that's so insane. That's so insane. But so cool that, and I don't know how they discovered this could be a treatment for that, but I mean, pretty cool, guys. All right, we'll check that one off the list. Dunk dunk. What else? No, there was another one. I do want to look into that later. Okay. All right, one more thing before we move on. So, you guys might have already seen this, and I'm pretty sure it's real. Although parts of it could be fake. So some of you might have heard of Joe Biden. He is He's the president of the United States right now. And he has at least one brother that I know of, and his name is Frank. And he looks a little bit like Joe Biden, but he's like really ripped, like old man muscle daddy ripped. And he's got a big old dick. According to posts I've seen. Um, and I'm just like, okay, this is by no means new news. This is old news. Um, Maybe we should call it just olds because it's not news. But yeah, he's got a big old dick. And apparently, well, the rumor was that he had posted his nudes on some kind of like sex hookup app or something. And in my memory, it was Grindr, but I don't know that it was. It could have been Tinder, it could have been anything. Also, as is the case with well-known people, he could have just sent it to somebody in private and then it leaked. That's how leaks happen a lot of times. I think celebrities sometimes will leak their own shit just to like get publicity, but people who are brothers with the president, and I think he's also like at least in the private sector involved in government or like I don't know something. Yeah, he's probably not wanting his nudes to get out there, but he did have nudes leaked that have his face on them. And in the time, the era of AI, there's a perfectly good chance that this is faked, that this is not real. But I like it. I'm just gonna go on the permanent record as saying I like it, and I hope it is real. And I don't care, other than I like it. So, as long as he's not sending it to some, Girl Scouts or, anyone who doesn't want it, you know, I'm okay with that. Cool. I don't even care if he is married and then sent it to somebody else. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if you're an adulterer. You can fucking be a president or the brother to a president and be an adulterer. I don't give a shit about your private life. That's not why we elected you. And this guy isn't even president, so anyway, just wanted to talk about that. Also, a while back, there were these staffers. There was more than one staffer. I think there was one recently who was like on the House floor having sex and like filming it. Like he's on all fours on like a table in the House chambers, like with his asshole open. And that went around. Can't imagine why you would do that. And then all of the right wingers were comparing it like to January 6th, being like, well, so it's illegal for us to go in there and this chamber that's paid for by public money and like voice our opinion or whatever, but like then these guys on the other side are having gay butt sex in the chamber, and it's like, well, he worked there, so he had access to the room. He didn't break windows and he didn't commit breaking and entering on government property. He didn't like crush a police officer to death, and like he didn't like threaten to harm like government officials. Like he just showed his butthole and got pounded a little. And I'm not saying that was good. I'm not saying I like that. It's funny. It certainly is funny. And I don't think that there's anything in the Constitution about separation between sex and politics. I don't think so. I think sex has always been very interwoven, just as much as religion, into our government. And I think it's just time that we started talking more about it. Why should all these politicians be freaks on the side? I want to know all about you. Well, that contradicts what I just said. I just don't want you to be like this closeted gay politician voting um, against like pro gay policies and for anti gay policies, and just like fucking sex workers on the side, and then having them sign like you know NDAs or whatever saying that like they won't ever talk about it. It's like, fuck you. you know you don't get to like do that while the rest of us got nothing. You know what I mean? I wish the staffer had done that as some kind of like a protest of something. Maybe just like tattooed around his butthole, like ceasefire or something. This might have happened a little bit before the whole issue in Gaza, but yeah, not to downplay what it is by calling it an issue. Um, anyway, I just don't want to let myself go on another tangent because here we are. All right, so let's talk about. Oh, and by the way, guys, could you please like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you're listening? Please give me as many stars as you can. I know that you're thinking like, oh, somebody else will do it. No, they won't. You need to do it, please. I'm begging you. I'm gonna get real desperate here. I need something from the listeners who haven't already given me something. This is a free podcast. You know what I mean? And like, all I'm asking you to do is show your support for the podcast. And I know like some of you might live in a place where like you can listen to a sex podcast, but maybe you can't openly support it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really even sure that like your support of this podcast is publicly visible anywhere. So go ahead, click on follow. If you want to leave a rating, please do. That's so easy to do. If you want to leave a review, that'd be awesome. Um, I know that like we have a couple from long ago. They're probably friends of mine. I think one of my friends posted a review and said, I definitely am not his friend. And I was like, great, thanks. That was Kevin. But yeah, please support the podcast, guys. I've got a bunch of jobs, and this one I want to be one, but it's not paying any money. So it'd be so nice if like y'all could do that for me, and then one day like we might have a real sponsor, and one day like we might have, I don't know, maybe I'll be on like Amazon whatever for a while. Amazon, join the dragon. Okay, so here we go. Let's look up this because believe it or not, I am an older millennial. And I don't want to get any of this wrong. So we're going to learn together here today. I don't want to sit here and act like I am like the most knowledgeable person about everything. I am a sexpert, kind of. But according to the woman that I talked to a couple weeks ago that you're going to meet soon, I know nothing. So, she didn't say that, but she told me things that I was like, holy shit. Okay. So there is an alphabet here. Let's read about it. This is the Alphabet Soup Terminology Virtual Lab School, virtuallabschool.org. Okay. Let's click on this. There's a lot here. The acronyms commonly used for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ community have changed over time. There are many variations on acronyms, with versions becoming increasingly more inclusive. Yeah, so it's changing all the time, but we're just adding, really. We're not subtracting. LGB and LGBT have been used since the 90s. And then there's this one here, LGBTQQIIAA+ for lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, questioning, intersex, intergender, asexual, ally, and more. There are words in there that I have not heard before. I've never heard intergender before. Ally is cute. I mean, they need support too. Um, for this course, gender expansion LGBTQ will be used. And okay, well, this is about a course or something. So there's some terms and some definitions here. So ally, we all know what allies are. They are people that support the LGBT. And oh, by the way, the acronym that I commonly use nowadays is LGBTQIA plus, and sometimes we call it Lahgitabitquia. Lahgitabitquia. It just helps. An individual who strives to identify and combat societal and internal homophobia and transphobia in support of the LGBTQ community. So this is a good site. You guys should check this out. virtuallabschool.org. And this is a guide, focus topics, creating gender safe spaces. And this is actually really cool because my local chapter of PFLAG is working on a thing called Project Safe Zone. We go into schools, we go into like different health clinics and just places where, LGBTQIA plus people are present or going to be at some point in time. And we help the employees and the staff and the community understand like how to make spaces safe for all people and fully inclusive spaces, right? So anyway, allies, love ya. Asexual people. Okay, I'm going to try to like describe this from what I think before I read the thing because I want to test myself. So asexual people are people that don't feel sexual attraction to anybody. And this says a person who defines as not sexually attracted to others. I was right. So that makes perfect sense. I've met asexual people. I have there was a guy who I was madly almost in love with. Definitely a good friend of mine in Germany. He was British and he was doing like his, I don't know, Erasmus year or whatever. And I was doing my year abroad through my college. And so we met. He was so adorable. His name was Adam. I've had a thing for Adams and Davids a lot in my life. I think I don't know what it is. Anyway, he was so adorable. We just really hit it off, and I was so ready to tell him I had feelings for him. And then he kind of got that, but he let me know that he's like, I'm asexual. Like, I wish I could feel sexually about anybody, but I don't. And I was just like, okay. And then in my head, I was like, I wish you just told me I was ugly. Like, I can't understand this. Just tell me something I know. But, at the time, I didn't respect people who were asexual, like, as much as I should have. I just thought it was like, because I'm early millennial, I thought it was like gay, bi, lesbian, trans. Like, my alphabet didn't extend that far. And now it, I guess, does. I don't know. I'm trying. This says binary system. So I know what a binary system is because I'm non-binary. So binary is the system of which like everything is genderized in two different categories, right? There's male, female. This is what boys do. This is what girls do. This is what they wear. This is blah, blah, blah. And there's these strict rules, and society invented the whole darn thing. And obviously that doesn't really work for anybody, but people just pretend it does. All right, so bisexual means that you are sexually attracted to males and females. I'm not going to read about that one because I know it is. Although I will say that like there's a lot of stigma around bisexuals. Like a lot of people make this joke. Then it was funny maybe like 15 years ago, but now it's really not. Of like, ugh, you say you're bisexual, I just say you're greedy. Like you just want to have sex with everybody. You're just horny all the time. You're a slut. And the thing about bisexuals is that they are not slutty. They're not, I mean, they can be if they want. They're not hornier than anybody else. That's how they are. And there's another misconception that they like, because they can feel sexually about men and women, that they have to have both in their life all the time, that they could never be monogamous or, be with just one. Um, and that's really not the case. So they're capable of doing anything that any other sexual orientative person could do. The term cisgender is here. That just means that you like identify as I like to say you identify as the gender you were assigned at birth. Like they said you were a boy and you're like, I'm a boy. I got a pee and little testes and I'm a boy. Cisgendered people can be gay, and cisgender, by the way, is spelled CIS gender. It's all one word, and that's not a new word. It's a very old. To be cis is not, that's not something that they just made up. It's not like a Gen Z verbiage. It's been a word for a long time. So there's that, and so has asexual. These are not new terms. It's just that people don't learn them. So there you go. So yeah, like I was gonna say, gay people could also be cisgendered. Like I know gay guys who are just like I'm a man, and they're cis male, but they're also gay. So their gender is different than their sexuality. So that's kind of cool. The word gay is here, which is such a huge umbrella term now. Gay means that you're attracted to the same gender. It includes lesbians. Lesbians are gay women. But sometimes gay is more specifically for men, and then lesbians have their own word. But gay is an umbrella term, and it's kind of like queer at times. Like, the whole alphabet, you could say we're all gay. Because gay just really used to mean funny or happy or different or weird, kind of like queer. It has alternative connotations. Gender identity, that just means that you identify as a gender, and it does not need to be like, determined by society or doctors or your parents or anything, but what you actually feel like inside. So what gender do you identify with? This one says gender expansive, sometimes called gender creative. I love some of these terms. These are fun. I'm going to read about this one because I don't know. Individuals who do not conform to stereotypical gender norms. Gender expansive children are exploring gender expressions counter to binary constructs. They may say they are a boy at one time and a girl at another time, or reject gender labels, sometimes also called gender creative or gender nonconforming. Gender creative and transgender are not interchangeable terms. Gender creative children are not necessarily transgender. So that's really cool. It sounds like just more terms for what I kind of feel like I am. I mean, I say non-binary or NB, but I guess you could say gender nonconforming. I really just don't. Yeah, I just don't feel like I'm. Like, there's days when I feel manly, there's days when I feel feminine, and there's days when I just feel like a person, and it really changes. And so maybe I'm gender expansive, but that's like, let's not give the cis het people too much, and their head might explode. Okay. Gender fluid, individuals who do not identify with a fixed gender. So there's that. Another similar term. Just depends on what you feel works best for you. Gender expression is how you choose to, I guess, physically express, or, through mannerisms or through your body language, what your gender is. And that says how we show our gender identity to others, usually expressed through clothing, haircut, voice, body, characteristics, activities. Some related terms include masculine, feminine, androgynous. I've heard people say androgynous is not an okay term anymore. I know people saying things like, we haven't gotten there yet, but people saying hermaphrodite, although that is a scientific term, and it's used for more than just people. So I'm not sure if we should outlaw it, but it does have negative connotations when we're talking about the gender of humans. So maybe we don't have to use terms that describe animals when we're talking about people. That's possible. I think we could feel that that's a safe thing we could agree on, right? Gender pronouns are just pronouns. They're they precede you, you know. So he, she, her, and him in English, but it's best to let people, including children, choose their own pronouns. Some non-binary examples include singular they and je. I think it's pronounced je, Z-E. Gender-free pronouns, je, je, z, zay, jer. I can't even pronounce. Some of these are just like Z's and X's and vowels. Her, here, HIR. So there was like a ZE, there was a ZEE. So I think that's like Zay and Z, and ZIE, Zai, or XE, G, J, Jai. Here, HIR, and replaces her, hers, him, his, they, and theirs. Yeah, this is a mind bending. This is like a Rubik's Cube of pronouns for me, and I am non binary. So obviously, this comes down to this, guys. I mean, I just don't want to be controversial, or do I? No, I've had to accept in my life personally for who I am that, like, not everyone's opinion matters. And I'm not going to get the whole world to use the right pronouns when talking about me. And so for me, I just find that I will have greater peace if I just expect or accept all pronouns. Do you hear these fucking birds outside? This is some shit. Okay. I expect all I God damn it. I do expect, but I accept all pronouns. I don't really love super gendered terms. Like if someone's like, hey big guy, or hey man, what's going on? Hey dude, what's up, brother? That kind of stuff makes me really uncomfortable. But I kind of just grin and bear it if it's a person I don't know. Because honestly, you're going to tell a person you don't know, oh, actually, my pronouns are this, that. They're going to go, okay. Or they're going to say, nah, I'm not doing that. Or they're going to just be like, what's a pronoun? And I'm not here to educate everybody. I don't need to spend my time. You know, for the people close to me, people that I choose to have in my life, I can ask those people to call me what I want to be called, for sure. Or don't call me certain things. Like, hey, listen, like, I know you call everybody dude, so that's okay. But, like, please don't call me big guy. That really upsets me. Like, first of all, I feel fat all the time. Second of all, big guy. When somebody calls me big guy, it makes me think they don't give a shit about me at all. That's just how I feel. It's like they don't know me at all. Or when someone calls me buddy, or I love it when someone's doing a service for you, like a driver or a delivery person or I don't know, whatever. It used to be like Uber drivers and stuff. They'd call me boss. They'd be like, hey, what's up, boss? And I actually think that's really funny. I like that one. But yeah, if you want to go to my shit list real fast, call me big guy. See how that works. Because that one I might say, nope, that's not acceptable. Nope, we're not doing that one today. You can call me whatever you want. You call me big guy, we're done. We're not friends. Unless you change that shit real fast. So anyway, that's probably just because I'm more self-conscious about being overweight than anything else. Okay, so what my point was is that, like, if you're this person who really expects like you're only going to be happy if everyone calls you the right pronouns. I'm sorry, love. I'm sorry. That's never going to happen. And you got to change your expectations, especially for strangers. it is fully in your right to expect the people that you allow close to you to call you what you want to be called. It is fully within your right to want that. That is not irrational at all. But for you to expect a complete stranger, especially if you present a certain way and maybe how you feel inside doesn't match how you present in their mind, baby, you're going to be disappointed the rest of your life. So, I'm sorry. I wish it were different, but we're living in a straight world and we can't change that. We cannot change that. We can change a lot, but we can't change the fact that the majority of human beings are heterosexual. I mean, that's keeping the planet moving, right? I'm not making any babies over here. I mean, I'm not adopting. I'm not using a egg donor or something. I'm not doing any of that shit. A lot of young people aren't, but especially young queer people, unless they've got money, no, sweetie, no. So anyway, let's move on. Heterosexual or straight? I think we know. I think we know what that means. But sometimes we'll say het for hetero. We'll say cis het means that you're like heterosexual and you feel like you are the gender you were assigned at birth. Heteronormative is a term that means like just like what you're doing is pretty typical for most people who are straight. And so like sometimes things will be for queer people, if you say like, ugh, I don't know, that was just a little bit too heteronormative for me. It just means like I don't relate to it. Although I live in this world that's completely heterosexual, I can't with that. I need something that's a little bit more like represents me or feels like I feel, So that's when I use the word heteronormative. Homophobia and transphobia. Okay, so this is this says the dislike or fear of people who identify or are perceived as belonging to the LGBTQ community. So homophobia is that, it's mostly a fear of people who are homosexual. So people who are gay or lesbian or maybe even bi. Transphobia is specifically about people who are afraid of trans people, or it could be non-binary or genderqueer, gender non-conforming people too. I wanted to go back up here. There was a term up here when we read that really big acronym LGBTQQIIAA plus. They said transgender, transsexual. I want to talk about transsexuals a little bit later. Also, there's one term up here, questioning. I don't know if we're going to get into that later, but so there's always been a question in our mind about whether or not the Q in LGBTQ stands for queer or questioning. It mostly stands for queer, okay? But questioning is an interesting one to have because there's a lot of people who aren't sure and they're questioning and they're a part of our alphabet. We accept them and we expect them. They're always around. They're kind of like little butterflies, eventually they'll land on a flower, but they don't have to stay forever. They can fly around to all the flowers they want. Intersectionality. Oh dear. This might be a longer episode than I planned. I'm going to go fast. Intersectionality is a term coined, it says here, in 1989 by Kimberly Crenshaw to highlight how different aspects of one's identity can influence the kinds of experiences and oppression different individuals face. So I like to think of intersectionality as an intersection, right? So some people will talk about, like, I always think this is a thing when people are talking about, like, who has it worse, like black people or gay people. Well, I would like to say that it doesn't matter, but also I'm afraid black people had it much worse. But especially when you consider that there's intersectionality there. So not only can a black person be discriminated against because they're black in this country and in a lot of the world, but also they could be gay too. They could be gay and black. So you can't say who has it worse, gays or blacks. If you're saying a white gay person and a black straight person who has it worse, what if you're saying a white gay person and a black gay person? What if you're saying, and I thought about this, what if you're saying a black gay woman? What if you're saying a black gay woman in a wheelchair? What if you're saying a black gay woman in a wheelchair who has dwarfism? There's a person out there who has all of that. And I'm not saying this to be funny. I'm saying this to make you understand intersectionality. Okay? Like, they're not separate things. They weave in and out of each other. And by the way, if you want to find a black gay woman in a wheelchair, what was the other thing? Who has dwarfism, you can. That person exists. Definitely. So, yeah. Intersectionality is pretty useful when you're talking about, humanity and people and all of that shit. Intersex. Let's talk about intersex, and maybe there's a difference here between intersex and intergender. An individual who was born with what a doctor determined as ambiguous genitalia. The intersex community uses the term ambiguous genitalia with caution due to the pathologization. Did I say that right? Pathologization. How did I say that? That was a crazy word. Characterization of medically abnormal of one's anatomy. So this blows my mind. Okay, guys, this blows my mind. And Jon Stewart was just talking about gender on his show. I think it's on Apple now or something. He's got this little show. And he had a geneticist come on and talk about all the different combinations of chromosomal pairs or whatever. It's not as simple as, oh, this is X or XY, and that's how you know there's two genders. It's really not. There are all sorts of combinations that can occur. And a big part of that can contribute to the genitals we have when we're born. And we're talking about genitals because when you're born and you're a little baby, it's almost like everything about your body is like the same on the outside as any other baby, unless you have some kind of a mutation or something, right? But babies all have like little baby bellies and little baby chests and little baby arms, little baby legs, right? Little toes and fingers and little noses and all that stuff. But to determine what we call gender, the doctor has to look at the genitals and has to decide, is this a penis or is this a vagina or a vulva or whatever? And sometimes they don't know. And then sometimes they just pick one. They say, this doesn't look like a penis, so we're going to remove it. And this is going to be a girl. This has happened a lot to intersex people. And it's traumatic. It's ruined people's lives. Because they grow up as a girl and they're like, I'm a boy. I know I'm a boy. Or they have a little bit of both. And the doctor's like, no, this won't work. We've got to remove one of these. Because the doctors in their heads are thinking, this has got to be a boy or a girl. And there's also a form. There's a birth certificate there's a box that has to be checked. And there's only 2 boxes. There's so many times that people have had to fight the system just to get a form to include them. Do you know that? Do you know that like people of color just couldn't get things because there wasn't a form that they could check with their proper ethnicity or race? Do you know that like that's why a big reason why gay people couldn't get married? Because it said, what's the wife's name? What's the husband's name? And there was no choice for a second wife or a second husband. It's just these forms. Your life is determined by a piece of paper with boxes to check sometimes. And that is insane. That doesn't work for the people. This form does not work for the people it's meant to represent. It is not representing everyone. But the system cares more about this piece of paper than the people. Caring about property more than people. That's another way of saying that. Yikes! Very upsetting. I have such fears that like, it's something happened to me and I mean, I have a penis, so it's not like they turned my vagina into a penis and it was like, ooh, he's a boy. Um, but I always wonder if something happened when I was born. Like maybe I had both and they just closed up the hole. They just sewed it up and like maybe I have ovaries in there and shit. Like I don't know. I always wonder. And my parents will just never tell me. Intergender says a person who feels they do not belong to the male or female gender. So that's kind of like me. I'm kind of intergender. So it's different than intersex, obviously, because sex and gender are different. Or sexuality and gender are different. Although we call gender sex sometimes, which is very confusing. Lesbians, we know about them. Ladies that like ladies. An individual, pansexual. I just started reading the description. Pansexual, here's some new ones. They're not new, but they're new to my brain sometimes. Pansexual, I believe this is, let me test myself. It is a person who who can be sexually attracted or romantically attracted to all genders, including trans. So it could be male, female, trans, non-binary, literally anybody. Pan. What does it say? Experiences gender as, an individual who experiences gender as non-binary and can be attracted to people of any gender. That's kind of what I said, right? Queer. Everyone on the LGBTQIA plus spectrum, generally younger people, feel more comfortable with this term, as older generations may consider it offensive because they were called queer in an offensive way in school. I was, but I still love the term queer. I love it. I love fag too. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I love the word fag. I was called it so many times. And I know that like the people that hate it the most are my allies because they were standing by a gay person when they were called fag and they felt pain too. And they don't like it because it brings up those memories. And I'm really sorry. And I don't want to cause that pain for you. But we got to take our words back, baby. We gotta, it's ours. We got given it and we took it. For a long time, we let it hurt us. And now we're going to wear it and we're going to celebrate it because we love it. Because it wasn't untrue. I was a fag. I still am. I love it. If I had a shirt that said fag on it, oh, baby, I'd wear it. Okay. Who am I right now? I don't know. Let's see. So queer is kind of a term for everybody, but yeah, some people don't like it. Questioning. An individual who is exploring their sexual or gender identity. There's a word sex, which is the state of being male or female or intersex based on biology, chromosomes, hormones, internal reproductive organs, and genitals, which we know is a lot more complex than we've thought in our binary, way of thinking previously. Sexual orientation, it's like, what's your sexuality? Transgender, an umbrella term for people whose gender identity or gender expression differs from the sex they were assigned at birth. So the thing about transgender people that a lot of people don't know is that they are in all stages of, oh God, that hurt. They're in all stages. I just said that hurt because I hit my watch on something and it didn't hurt me physically at all. I just was afraid for my watch because I'm a capitalist. Okay. So, what am I saying? Transgender people are at all stages of that process, right? Some of them have fully had bottom surgery, top surgery. They have done different things to make themselves look one way or the other. They've done hormones. They are fully transitioned, as we say. And there are people who have done none of that. And there are people that have done some of it and all the things in between. There are people who consider themselves to be trans or transgender who will never get a bottom surgery. They are happy having whatever they've got. Um, and they don't care to change it. And they don't need that change to feel like themselves. So there's a spectrum there too, right? Um, but most of my trans friends, no, that's not true. I have trans friends who have done a full transition. They've had, you know, my one friend has breast implants. She has a vagina now. She has, she removed the scrotum and the penis, obviously. And I'm sure this isn't how you should talk about it, but this is the medical, jargon maybe. She has had facial feminization surgeries, plastic surgery on her face. She's had probably like laser hair removals, and I don't think she's had anything to change her voice because she's a singer, and she's already has a beautiful voice. um, she's done a lot. I don't know if she's had anything like more cosmetic, like butt implants or things like that, but she's had a lot of work done, and she's gorgeous. She always was, but she's gorgeous, and she feels more like herself, and we're really happy for that. So, and then I have a lot of, I don't want to say friends, because I don't actually think I have a male trans friend, but I do. I do have a male trans friend. But we're becoming better friends, we'll say. Um, and I love trans guys. I think they're so cute. I would, I am sexually attracted to some trans guys. So I don't know if that makes me more pan or whatever. I'm kind of, as an old millennial, I kind of just am like, whatever. You call me whatever. I don't care. I like what I like. I like when I like it. I'm a little bit old school like that. I don't need to be, I almost said terminalized. Is that a word? And then transsexual. So this one that we don't use as much. It is in Rocky Horror. I'm just a sweet transvestite. So we don't say that ever. But transvestite is a term that we don't use predominantly because it's misunderstood. So a transvestite is somebody who's a drag queen, essentially. For the most part, I'm pretty sure. A transvestite is just a man who likes to wear women's clothes and dress up like a woman and maybe make a living being a woman. But we don't use that term anymore. We just say drag. We just say drag queen. But transsexual says an older term that originated in the medical and psychological communities to describe people who have permanently changed or seek to change their bodies through medical interventions, including but not limited to hormones and or surgeries. This term is no longer considered appropriate by most gender expansive or LGBTQIA plus people because of its overly clinical focus. So yeah, it's not really, transsexual is so much more about like body parts and so much less about like how you feel on the inside. So it's not as widely used, but nobody says transvestite anymore. But I just wanted to say it a bunch of times because I'm a total cunt. So I don't know if we touched on everything. We touched on lesbian, L, gay, G, bi, B, trans, T, Q, queer questioning, I, intersex, intergender, II, AA, plus. So we didn't talk about aromantic. So, and then there's another one I just learned. I learned another one. We didn't talk about demi either. Okay, so we have to talk about fray, demi, and aromantic. Is that the only other one? There's probably others, but I literally just learned one the other day. It was crazy. Okay, so demi means that you're attracted to Demi Lovato. That's my big joke about that. It's not true. Demi Lovato. Demisexual means, let me look it up because I get pansexual and demisexual mixed up. Demisexual. Okay, so this means It's a sexual orientation in which an individual does not experience. Oh, that's right. They don't experience primary sexual attraction. Um, what does it say? The type that is the type of attraction that is based on immediate observable characteristics such as appearance or smell and is experienced immediately after a first encounter. So what I understand about demisexuality is it's like these people that need to, they, in order to be sexually attracted to someone, they need to like get to know them. They need to be like, they're attracted to someone's person, not their body. And with demi people, it doesn't actually matter what gender you are because they fall in love with a person. So that is, it could be interchangeable with pan, and maybe a little bit with bi. Now, the opposite end of that is fraysexual. I think it's spelled Fray sexual. Fray people are what a lot of people would say are like sluts. I think that's what you would say, because fray people, they are attracted to strangers, and the more they get to know somebody, the less attracted they are to them. And that is considered to be very shallow, and they're more attracted just to physicality, and they're not attracted to persona. Um, a lot of people would probably be very upset to know that a person's fray, or that they like are calling themselves a term and making it a thing, but like, hey baby, we got to respect, that's who they are, that's who they associate, that's how they identify, so you got to respect. You don't got to be it, you don't got to be with them, but you got to respect. And I love knowing that that's a actual thing, because like, how many times have I like hooked up with someone and thought like, oh, why hasn't he called me? Or like, oh, I really liked him, why didn't he just never returned my calls, he just ghosted me. And it's like, well, he could have been fray. Maybe he was super into you. All of that was true. He didn't lie. He never told you he wanted to be married tomorrow. He just wanted a good fuck. And that's okay. There are people who don't want to get married. They don't want to be in a relationship. And that's okay. That's totally okay. And sometimes people want one thing and then they want another thing later. That you're allowed to change that. You're allowed to be a little fray sometimes. And then sometimes you're allowed to be a little schmaltzy. So then there's aromantic. So sometimes they say aroace, which is like aromantic, asexual. I don't know why we're combining them, because they're different things. To be asexual means you don't feel sexually. It's similar but different than aromantic, which means that you just don't have romantic intentions ever. Like, you just don't want a relationship. So it's very fray also, right? You might be aromantic and want to fuck, but you don't really want anything romantic. You don't want anything permanent. You don't want anything, and that could be based in trauma, or it could just be how you are. Who knows? It's your business, right? I love these new ones I'm learning about. I love it. I love that, like, all of these different ways of feeling, they're allowed. They're allowed. And the more we know about them, the more we understand people, and the less we make it about ourselves when a person isn't interested or is feeling this or that or blah, blah, blah. It's like this guy who I loved in Germany. Like, he really, really probably loved me too. But he was like, I'm not sexual. And like, maybe that hurts him a lot, knowing that like, he might be in love with someone and he might never be able to offer them sex genuinely. And maybe he's like, I don't want to do that to a person who wants sex. Maybe he could find someone who's like happy being with him and then having sex with someone else. But maybe he doesn't like that either. Maybe he's like, no, I don't want to share my partner, but I don't want to have sex. So maybe he could find another person who's asexual and they could get married and be very happy and just never have sex. And that sounds great. I hope that is what he finds. I love that for him. I love that for you, Adam. Thanks for loving me in any way that you did. It was great. Alright guys, it's almost an hour, which means that this is not even a very quick episode. But I'm so happy we did this. I'm publishing this now. No edits. I hope I didn't say anything terrible. I hope I didn't burp or fart. I don't think I did. I was trying really hard. But again, please rate, review, subscribe, you guys. I hope that you are just having the best life you could possibly be having, or like getting there, honey. And I hope that you're filling your holes with whatever. My fucking house is so loud. I hope you're filling your holes with whatever makes you happy. Bye bye.